Hello?
What's up?
So, you ready to post a mean tweet? I thought you'd never ask. Breaking news! Donald Trump is back on X.
I'm sorry.
This is truly the darkest day in American history. How can this be happening? We need fact checkers immediately. I'm calling the police. Hey, Reagan's back. All right. No, I'm moving to Canada. What should I tweet first? Oh, I know. Hello?
It's just too much. It's too much. It's you know what warms my heart, Joe, about all of that, about every single bit of that, and a lot of the other clips that you find out there, is it pisses the liberals off. The act itself, okay. Trump being back on X. Well, here, let's give a little timeline. If you're just joining us here at the front line with Joe and Joe live Thursday nights, 9 o'clock Eastern time. Got a great show for you tonight. Got a lot of atrocities to show you. And of course, comment on everything that's going on. So stick around. We're going to have a lot of fun tonight. But Joe, let me give you the timeline. Elon Musk takes over X. Elon Musk, he's a threat to democracy. He wants to destroy free speech, right? Because he took over X, right? Then the whole thing, the hullabaloo. As soon as he took over X, I got on X. We didn't pay attention to Twitter when the mutant ran it, Jack Dorsey, right? When we got on X, when Elon Musk got on there, and rightfully so, because now it's a legit free speech platform. We're not going to get strikes like we do on YouTube, okay? So that's one thing. Then everybody's saying, why is Donald Trump not on X? Why is he not on X? All you get is his Truth Social posts that are reposted on X, right? And that's enough to make as my mother, 82-year-old Italian mother would say, make your brains to fall out if you're a liberal, that Donald Trump is reposting his stuff on X. Oh, and God forbid Elon Musk is allowing it, all right? Now, Donald Trump is back on X. So he's got Truth Social, which is a multi-billion-dollar company that, is publicly traded. You could go and buy the stock if you want, okay? And now he's on X. Joe, how many viewers did his interview?
1 billion.
1 billion views. Now, you see the power of information? The only way Kamala's winning is if they cheat. See, the lines of communication that Elon Musk is allowing, because Elon Musk is smart, just like Donald Trump is smart, okay? He pisses me off a lot, but he's smart. He knows what he's doing. He's aligning himself with Elon Musk because he knows that he could go over the media. Ronald Reagan was credited for doing that in the 80s when all he would do is like go over the media's head and have let's say a direct talk with the American people. He would give a speech. Now it's social media. Trump goes infinitely over their head. 1 billion, Joe, 1 billion people is about between a seventh and an eighth of the world's population.
No, Joe.
I don't need to tell you how absolutely huge that is, and then you wonder why they're crying into coffee, okay? Because they're really, like I said, Joe, unless they're prepared to cheat like crazy in this election, okay? She's going down in flames, and this is one of the reasons
they are prepared.
No, we know that.
Don't worry about that. But what I found interesting about the Twitter, conversation was some of the comments, how they tried to basically, particularly CNN, they tried to basically poo-poo it. Listen, just think about that number for a second. 1 billion views. There is no one on the face of the earth. No one, not a soul.
Joe, they can't get a fraction of that.
Joe, that's
Fraction,
absurd.
Joe.
That's absurd. If you get 1 million views, that's a lot.
Right.
1 billion views is, you can't even wrap your arms around that. And notice, do we have that clip from the EU, that conversation with Grinnell?
We're gonna play it.
Good, because they wanted to ban it. Just so people know, France bans Rumble. So does Brazil. Brazil also puts some stipulations around X because they know they cannot have social media. Also, which people should pay attention to if you don't already know, 4,000 people have been arrested in the UK for tweets and Facebook posts. 4,000. I'm willing to bet that's more people that have been arrested than in the Soviet Union, Russia. I know it's not the Soviet Union anymore. I'm from the 80s. That's what I still know. But I bet you it's more. That's England. 4,000 people, the mind police,
What
are
I don't,
basically out because they have to control the narrative.
I
They
don't
know that
understand.
they have to control the messaging, Joe. And that is something that Americans should watch for because that could easily happen here.
Joe, what do you have to get paid if you're a European, if you're a Frenchman, if you're an Englishman, if you're an Italian, if you're a German, what are you getting paid? What sort of payment are you getting for selling out your own countrymen in the name of I don't know what? You know, if you call one of these Muslims, let's say that comes across into England that they're letting in, who rapes a woman or a group of them gang rape a woman, and you refer to them as rapists, that's one of the clips that's going around. The judge sentenced the guy to 20 months in jail.
Well,
They are raping. They are raping.
Well, just that they have the same problem. I listen to some UK politics through Neil Oliver as well as what's his face, Tate, every once in a while. It's the same problem. They have the uniparty and it's an oligarchy. It's the same problem. You say, why does someone sell out? Because I'm financially benefiting from it. It benefits me. It's all about me, Joe, and it's all about money. It comes right down to that. Very few people, they're sadly in power, are principled, very principled, who will go down the drain for their principles, will hold the line. Well, it's what's in it for me?
Right.
And these are not public servants. And that is why, if you ask me, politics has to change. It has changed in the last 5 years because Donald Trump's legacy is he opened the kimono to what has been going on for decades. So has social media. And that toothpaste is not going back in the tube. I could say this for me. I am 54 years old. I will never, ever vote for an establishment candidate again. Ever. Never. Right. I don't look at it as Republican, Democrat. I don't look at it as left and right. I look at it as establishment versus the people, because
Right.
any person who's for wars, endless wars, any person that embraces globalism, any person that wants to get people off of the fuel grid, is anti-middle class, anti-regular person, is the cause of the inflation, and I will never vote for that person. Call them a Republican, call them a Democrat. It's not happening because they don't represent you, and people need to see it. They need
Joe,
to
listen.
see it, Joe, because it's
No,
for their own self-preservation.
They're going to see it. You want to know why? Because Elon Musk has opened up X. And I have a prediction. I've made some boneheaded predictions in my life, Joe Rossinello. I have a prediction that at some point, not today or tomorrow, you're going to slowly see X creep up because X is not doing what Meta's doing. Meta, the reason why they're a multi-trillion-dollar company is because they're doing a lot of other things, not just purely social media. But on the purely social media front, X is going to surpass Meta. X is going to surpass everybody because, like I said, Elon Musk is smart. And the fact is, people want, now we're going to play a clip, but people want free speech. I want to give a couple shout outs. Robert's here. Hey, Robert, what's happening? Sally from Australia, Joe. We got Sally from Australia is in the house. So gotta love. We're getting our Aussie brothers and sisters in here. Sean Marie, Teresa's with us. Now here's an interesting one because I heard this too. Zach, what's up? The law enforcement in the UK are saying they might come after Americans. Let me ask you this, Joe. Let's say that's even true. Zach, we're going to give you the benefit of the doubt. We're going to say
I actually heard that too.
Is the American government going to allow the UK government to come down here to Arizona to arrest me for calling them a bunch of scumbags? I'm asking. No, it's a legit question, Joe. I'm asking you a question.
I honestly, under a Harris-Waltz presidency, I wouldn't put anything past them. anything when it comes to that because they are not for free speech. Neither was Nikki Haley. Nikki Haley publicly said any person on social media had to put their real name. Listen, I don't put my real name on social media for one reason. I've been doxxed twice.
Right.
2 times people tried to get me fired. I'm not so I want to speak the truth. So at the end of the day, and who are you to say that what I'm saying isn't true? Just because you don't like it, just because it bothers you? Too bad.
Right.
Too bad.
But isn't that the answer? Is it really the answer to all this? It's we're going to talk about to Rick. We're going to play the clip from Rick Grinnell in a second. Talk of hate speech, which is just a construct made up by the left to try to take away your First Amendment rights, particularly to free speech, but also freedom of expression. Freedom of association, freedom to practice your religion. No, not freedom to worship. That's an Obama-ism. That means you could go to church and then shut up. I have the right to the free expression and practice of my religion, which means I could bring it out into the public square, Barry. So that's what I would tell Obama. But here's the thing. They're going to lose this. See, Rick Grinnell, now, mind you, Rick Grinnell is, I guess, somewhat conservative, okay? I don't know everything about him. But here, let's play it, and then I'll throw it over to you, Joe, as soon as we come back.
Back home in the last 24 hours, Donald Trump did this lengthy interview or conversation with Elon Musk on Twitter or X, and it went couple hours. I read that there were 1 million people who watched, and leading up to it, there's a lot of hand-wringing in the American press. You saw someone on CNN expressing concern that Donald Trump would be able to say whatever he wanted to say, which is literally free speech, and they were concerned about that. We had a Washington Post reporter ask the press secretary at the White House, could the president or the administration do anything to stop this conversation? And then there was this missive, this letter fired off by some EU, commissar, almost threatening, sort of saber-rattling about free speech and harmful content and that sort of thing surrounding this conversation. The Trump campaign put out quite a statement in response to that EU official, calling the EU broadly enemies of free speech. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, of course they are enemies of free speech. Look, what's happening, first of all, the 2 Americans talking about what's going on is, talking about the election, is all about freedom of speech. If someone is going to try to have a chilling effect to say they shouldn't be able to speak freely because there's hate speech or misinformation, first of all, this misinformation nonsense has got to stop. It's not misinformation. Sometimes it's someone's opinion, and the best way to confront something that you don't agree with is to speak out and give your facts and let people decide. There should never be a government agency or entity deciding to stop dissent because they think they know what's right.
Joe Arsenault, I want to make a quick comment. I'm going to throw it over to you just about Rick Grinnell. Okay, I'm sure I don't agree with Rick Grinnell on everything. He is a gay man. Okay, and I would say this: if you and I did an hour-long show together talking about the Catholic Church's teaching on homosexuality from A to Z, okay, which we both know, and we put it out there and we say, look, we just want to throw this. This is what the church teaches. Rick Grinnell would not try to take us down from social media. I know that about him. I know that much about him. I know he's also a veteran. All right. So he's fought for this country, and he's a homosexual. He actually believes in free speech. Just you hear what he said? Misinformation. Well, that's just whatever you don't like. Joe Arsenault, I'm going to throw it over to you.
Joe, you can't call yourself a free democracy and not have free speech. So if you're going to go down that route, EU, then you are a tyrannical regime. You exactly what Grinnell said. If you don't like what someone said, then bring your facts, have a discussion. That's what free speech is about. And any person that is not for free speech does not stand with America. America is our first and fundamental right. One of our first and fundamental bill on the Bill of Rights, free speech.
Right.
The founders understood that. And the moment that a government gets to set up some agency to say, you can't say this and you can say that, you know you're on the road to perdition. We're way past
We're way
entering the
past that.
road. We're
You
we're,
need
we're far down that road. But again, this is, if you ask me, Trump sometimes gets side. He doesn't focus on some of the big issues. He gets caught up in some like skirmishes sometimes that he has to be more disciplined. And this is one of the biggies that resonates with people. Like if I was on his campaign, I'd be like, Don, 5 things we're talking about. And of the 5 is this: free speech. Free speech. If you don't have free speech, you don't have a free country. And any person, call yourself whatever you want to call yourself, whatever political stripe, if you're not for free speech, I got news for you. You're not for America.
Do you know the one question? If you're just joining us here at the front line with Joe and Joe, or Thursday nights, 9:00 Eastern time, we go live, Rumble, X, Facebook, YouTube. You know what galls me more than anything else in this whole thing, especially when you watch some congressional hearings that happened over the last couple months where they're discussing this, is Swalwell and Adam Schiff and people like that. You know what? You know what really, Joe, I don't get too angry anymore on the show. I still get angry, but not as bad as I used to, okay? But what really blows the top of my head off is when you think I'm stupid. I'll tell Adam Schiff and Swalwell right to their face, I don't have your degrees. I certainly don't have your money, okay? I crush you intellectually. In fact, I think the both of you are stupid men. You're stupid because you think we're stupid. What do I mean by that? Stalin is looking up at these people from hell in envy, okay, of how they're trying to control speech in America. He only wished he could do it as good as them in the Soviet Union, okay? And they keep going on about misinformation and disinformation. And the one question, Joe Rossinello, that they'll never answer. I don't care who you talk. I don't care if you say to the ADL, can you please explain and tell us what you don't like what's anti-Semitism? Or if you say to these people, what's misinformation or disinformation? What's hate speech? Say, who's going to set the standard for those things so we know exactly what those things are? And they can't answer it. They can't, because my question would be, okay, is it going to be a panel of people? Are there going to be 6 conservatives, 6 centrists, and 6 liberals? I mean, how does that work other than the way it's supposed to? And I'm going to throw it back to you, which is to say, I get to say whatever the hell I want. And if you want to argue with me, you're free to do so. And if you don't want to bother, shut up and keep it moving. What do you got to say, Joe?
Well, Joe, it has nothing to do with misinformation. It has everything to do with anything said that threatens their position or power. And they label it as misinformation. And sometimes people say the wrong thing. Let's be honest. Sometimes people make mistakes, and sometimes people say things the wrong way because they want to. But at the end of the day, that's for you to correct. And at the end of the day, when the lie loses power, you have to censor. And that's what we're seeing in the UK. As I mentioned earlier, 4,000 people have been arrested. What we just saw in a conversation with the people in the EU, they're talking about restricting the potential next president of the United States who's simply having a conversation, and you want to ban him? Like, if you think that that's okay, I got news for you. You should really take a step back, because ultimately it comes down to this. There's a lot of things on social media that I don't like to hear and I don't like to see. And what I do, I just move on.
That's it.
Because I'm an adult. I just move on.
You use the
You
right
don't like
word.
it? Move on.
No, you
But
use
it's
the
not
right
about
word.
that. It's about
Go ahead.
It's about threatening power, Joe.
Joe, you
And
said you used the perfect word. You're an adult. You're
it.
an adult. No, the children stamp their feet and start making excuses. That's what children do. You see, St. Paul said that. He said, when I was a child, I spoke as a child. When I became a man, I learned to put away childish things. These people at the end of the day, they think, like I said, Joe, they think they're so sophisticated. They think they're so smart. Of course, they have money. They got a couple of degrees. They're children, Joe. They don't get what they want, and they throw a fit. Throw it back to you.
But it comes down to they're smart enough to know that it's about power. You see, power's never given. It's taken. And they know that this is a threat. It is a threat.
Mm-hmm.
Social media, particularly X, when you're getting 1 billion views, Joe,
They're shaking in their boots,
That
Joe.
is horrifying, because I'm going to tell you right now, if you control the messaging, you control the populace, and they know that. That's why also freedom of the press is one of our first rights. The founders understood that. Sadly, our press has been co-opted by the same money people that control our politicians. But freedom of the press is supposed to put power in check, and messaging puts people on notice when the people who are supposed to be serving you are not, and they're not serving us, and they know it. And that's why they have to control the messaging. And that's why when he bought Twitter, that was not planned. And that was a fly. It's more than a fly in the ointment.
Oh,
And to be truthful with you, it terrifies them. And Donald Trump, if he's smart and he's starting to use Twitter outside of that conversation, I heard he posted a little bit after that as well, should keep doing it.
he should do that, Joe, if he's getting that many. Elon Musk should have a standing once a month interview with Donald Trump where they discuss all the things and get it out there to hundreds of millions of people, starting with election reform in the individual states, and start a groundswell of support because you have so many people watching. Remember something, Joe, it's 1 billion people, okay? That means people around the world are watching.
No,
There's
no
only about
question.
350 million
Absolutely.
people here.
Absolutely.
Elon Musk should pick a topic, set aside 2 hours for Trump, okay? All the major issues, and blast it out there on X and get that same audience, starting with election reform, all right, real election reform, immigration, okay? You and I both know they're not going to talk about abortion. It's unfortunate, but let's just leave, I hate to say it like this, leave that aside for a second. But things like election reform within the states, cleaning all across the board, all the shady things they do. You know what I would do? I don't know how realistic this is, but then again, that's why we're on the front line with Joe and Joe, because I get to throw my ideas out there. I would pass a law in the federal government that says everybody who serves in the government, every single person, not only do they have to have financial disclosure of everything that they have going on business-wise, you know they have to do that anyway, right? They also have to disclose, and they have to sign this into law, any overseas bank accounts they have, because you're not going to tell me that Nikki Haley and some of these others don't get paid off to say the crap that they say. But anyway, my larger point was about free speech. Donald Trump and Elon Musk should do that. Elon Musk should interview him every month on X and talk about all the issues that Donald Trump basically says are important and get a groundswell of support.
Well,
Then you watch the Democrats go running for the hills, Joe.
He has to stay focused.
But he has. Can I ask you? I was going to ask you sooner. I'm sorry to cut you off, Joe. You mentioned that he's got to stay disciplined. Okay, and I agree with you, 1,000%. I think he has.
To a degree, but here's the thing. There's certain issues that aren't really the concern of the people, like talking about she's an Indian versus she's Jamaican. Stay off that topic. Stick to things that resonate with the 80% that are going to elect you. The radical right and the radical left, it's the 80%. That's how you win. And what you have to talk to people, because I'm going to be honest with you, when you start talking like on those side issues, it's easy for the rest of the people to dismiss you. They dismiss you. What you have to do is talk to the people. And there's issues here. For instance, we don't have a president right now. How's that for an issue? And she's a part of that soft coup that took place because the money got cut off Joe Biden. And the only reason why she's in that spot is because she had to be on the ticket, because the money, it's a law that Joe Biden raised while he was the quote unquote president, has to
go to her.
Correct. So right now we're in a proxy war with Russia. We're about to enter another proxy war with Iran. Who's the president? We basically have non-elected officials making decisions for the American people. And I haven't heard Donald Trump say that once. Why isn't he banging that drum? That is a major issue. That's issue one. How about issue two? Free speech. How about inflation? He's talking about that. Stick with it. Talk about gas. Talk about, these are things that resonate with all people. or immigration, which affects the poor in this country, the working poor. They're taking your jobs.
Right.
They're lowering your wages. They're taking your resources. Stick to those issues.
We're going to play.
Don't get caught up in the nonsense.
I agree with you on that. But I don't want him to complete. I'm gonna not push back on you. I agree with what you're saying. But if he goes to that conference of black reporters and black journalists, okay, and he's getting more and more black people on his side, I'm going to say I kind of like the fact that he brought that up. I like the fact that he said to the woman that was sitting there, the African American woman that was sitting there, and he says, all of a sudden she's black. She was it. Now I agree with you. He should stay on issues. I don't want him to lose that other stuff completely. I want him to jettison most of it, Joe. I'm not going to lie to you. I agree with you on that. Some of the stuff is when you just go like, Donald, shut up. But some of it, I think
because it's used to take the air out of the room. He has serious issues to bring up with this particular regime. Focus on it. Stay on the message. I'm not getting caught up in your nonsense, because I'll be honest with you, they're smart and they know this is the type of stuff that basically they exploit. And too many people on the right buy into it and they waste too much time on it. Stick to what the bread and butter issues are, because you have them.
I will say that what you're saying should be Donald Trump's default position. That should be his default position. To when in doubt, do exactly what you said. Just stay on message.
Dude, it's about winning.
Because guess what? She's not. They're not going to put. Remember what we put up with from day one, from the scumbag leftist media. Okay, from day one with Donald Trump. Look, watch this clip. I'm going to show you something. I'm going to show you and all of our audience members here at the Frontline with Joe and Joe a familiar face, the one on the left.
You guys to have a press conference. Why hasn't she had a press conference?
Listen, the Vice President and Governor Walz have been busy crisscrossing this country since the launch of this campaign and adding Governor Walz to the ticket. You saw the ways in which they went across the battleground states last week, generating rallies of thousands, 10,000 here, 15,000 there. But
Michael, you know, a campaign rally is not a press conference.
It's going to be inclusive.
Do you mind if I cut in? I mean, you know, a campaign rally is not a press conference. Why hasn't she had a press conference? She's the vice president. She can handle the questions. Why not do it?
We absolutely are going to do it. You hear her take questions as she's out on the stump. And she said last week, we're going to be having a sit-down interview here before the end of the month. What she's going to be focused on and what this campaign is going to be focused on is communicating directly with the voters that are actually going to decide the pathway to 270 electoral votes. That's why she
Can you commit to a press conference this week?
This past week. That's why we're doing a bus tour in Pennsylvania as we head into Chicago. And it's why we'll sit down for an interview before the end of the month to make sure that we can have a deep dive conversation about the vision that Kamala Harris has for where she wants to take this country and the contrast that we're going to have with Donald Trump. We're going to have plenty of opportunities to do that throughout the rest of
but one interview by the end of the month.
This month and throughout the rest of the campaign.
I don't want to belabor this, but one interview before the end of the month. I mean, that's not a lot. I mean, can you commit to a press conference before the end of the month?
We will commit to directly engage with the voters that are actually.
I'm sorry, Joe. I couldn't watch it to the end because see the guys like that on the. First of all, we'll talk about Acosta in a second. Guys like that on the black guy, he makes me sick. He makes my stomach turn. Again, another guy on the left who thinks that people like us are stupid. Now we know that they hate us because we don't drink their Kool-Aid. Okay, they really hate you and me because we're Catholic. Okay, let's face it. But it's a matter of when you think I'm stupid. You don't want her to talk, brother. You don't want her to talk because By the way, did you see what he did when Acosta asked him twice in that little exchange where the guy starts with a cackle? He goes, see, they think that they could just get away with anything just by giving it a cackle. Kamala actually outdoes Hillary Clinton when it comes to the cackle. Okay. But she's not going to talk to the American people. He said, we're going to do a one-on-one interview. I would have said to him, that's not a press conference. Well, we're going to do it. That's not a press. Well, she answers question. Coming off a plane, answering a question. That's not. We want a full-blown press conference. And you know who I want in that press conference? I want the Republican and conservative equivalent of you, Jim Acosta, who berated and disrespected everybody in that press room for 4 years when Trump was president, including the women, by the way. including the women that you were disrespectful to, and you yelled at them, and you blew a gasket, and your vein popped out, and you're throwing softballs to this guy who's obviously a BS artist. Joe, I got to throw it over to you.
Well, here's the thing. Couple things. We're not getting the press conference.
No.
Kudos to Costa for pushing him. America should be aware of this clip. Ask yourself why she does not want to have a press conference, because she does not have a platform. Her platform is this: hate Donald Trump. She does not have a platform, and a press conference exposes all of the crap that took place in 4 years. If you can't connect that dot, I got news for you. I'll be truthful with you. You might as well shut the show off, because that's an objective conversation and that's an objective statement. Also, though, notice how disciplined he was, though. He just sticks to the line. You see, this is what people who oppose them have to do too. You can't get caught up. You have to stay disciplined. And basically, you have to play the game. And you stay disciplined. No, I'm not going to do a press conference because it's not in my advantage to do so. And I'm just going to dodge the question. Tough crap.
See,
How's
the thing
that?
is, who do you know in politics in your lifetime, all right, outside of when Trump came on the scene, that was ever allowed to do that by the press?
Well, the press
even liberals
lets
and
him get away
Democrats.
with it. Joe Biden ran from his basement. And she's
No,
doing
that's my point. It's like, all of a sudden they're not holding people's feet to the fire. Donald Trump's going to do a press conference.
But here's the
He's gonna do
thing.
multiple
It's
ones.
for the people of America to see it.
Right.
I can't make her do anything, but what people should do, and this is why we're talking about this clip on this show, is people should see that, and that should concern you. That should concern you. Your platform can't simply be, I hate Donald Trump. What do you stand for, and what have you done? That's an adult way to look at this. It's not, I just hate this guy. No.
Right.
What have they done, and what do you plan to do? And that's why they don't want to have a press conference, because they have nothing to say. And frankly, all they're running on is emotion. And if you're running on emotion, I got news for you. You're not an adult.
Joe, those frackers in Pennsylvania, they don't care that Kamala Harris hates Donald Trump. They want to know about who's going to preserve their job.
Well, that's where, again, Trump has to stay disciplined. He also has to remember who his people are. And I'm going to tell you who his people are. The people who are disenfranchised by this country. And there are many. And who also his people are? The people who are absolutely fed up with the establishment. People who no longer trust the government because of the lies that we have been getting spoon-fed, because of COVID, lies, because of all the nonsense, the lies. So many people. He has to stick to the messaging, just like that guy did. Yeah. I don't care, and I'm not getting sucked into your stupid nonsense. I'm sticking to my messaging. I have my 5 points. I know where you're weak, and I'm going to bang on it until the sun comes down. And that's how you win. Right. And that's what has to be done. Don't get caught up in the Olympics. Don't get caught up in stupid nonsense conversations. Don't get caught up in Twitter. Don't call this one a fool. No. 5 points. These are my people. This is how I win. And this is what I'm going to do. Discipline, self-control wins the day.
Joe, that what you just described, all the things like the Olympics and all those things, that's for guys like us to talk about.
That's not for him.
That's not for him. We're out there. We're talking about it. Tucker Carlson's talking about it. All these people are out there talking about it. Let us fight the culture war out here. Okay. That's what I want to do. All right. I want to put on the armor of God, and I want to fight this spiritual battle. We'll and other, mainly Catholics, but a lot of Christians in general, rallied against the Olympics and railed against the Olympics and said there was a disgusting display, both at the beginning and at the end, by the way, which was even worse with Satan descending from the skies. That's another story. But you're right. Trump should just let us do that. Stick to those ways. I got to give a shout out, though, because we have a new viewer. Gary Gary's with us. Gary, what's up, brother? Gary says in California, Joe. I'm close, Gary. I'm in Arizona, so hopefully we don't get too infected by California. We don't know how you're doing it. But Gary, thank you so much. And share the video if you don't mind. We go live Thursday nights, 9 o'clock Eastern time. We really appreciate it. And Gary makes a good point. And Gary's a paisan, by the way, Oliverio. Is that Acosta? Yeah, Acosta's going to try to look tough, but everybody knows he's a fako, Gary. Everybody knows he's a fako because all they got to do is look at every press conference that he was a part of in the whole Trump era, okay, and how he disrespected people, including the president, but including those women, including Kayleigh McEnany, and including Sarah Huckabee Sanders, okay? And how disgusting that girl came over to take the microphone away from him when Trump told her to go get the mic. Acosta pushed her on the side. Okay, he should have just for the hell of it should have been arrested for assault. So you're right, Gary. Acosta's going to try to come across the middle of the road. I do it to everybody. No, you don't. No, you don't. You're a leftist. You're a partisan, and you let that guy off the hook, as my partner Joe Resinello said. Joe, but here's the thing: you talk about bread and butter issues, okay, and you want to talk about 1 billion people being scared to death because Donald Trump and Elon Musk got together. And so you have the Democrats that are basically saying, how is this being allowed to happen? And we talked about it earlier in the show. But the bread and butter issues, the cost of milk, and the fact that African Americans are adversely affected by that. Liberals used to care about that. Of course, maybe not, but at least they seemed to a long time ago. Listen to this.
How hard has inflation hit you?
It hit me hard. It's hitting me hard.
Who do you blame for it?
I blame the federal government at this point. If a working class mom who works as a paralegal cannot buy a $2 bell pepper because it's now $5, imagine a mother living on food stamps. Imagine a mother who's making minimum wage trying to feed children. They're killing us without killing us. If you understand that. They're killing us without telling us they're killing us. They're hurting people in ways that they can't help themselves. It's either feed my child or how about feed my children and I don't eat, but I have to go work.
The left and the Democrats' worst nightmare. A black woman talking about the high cost of food and blaming the Democrat regime right now. A horrible, horrible scenario. That was on NBC, Joe. Joe, real quick, that was on NBC.
I know.
That was on NBC.
Let me clarify this, though. I agree with what you said, but then I also want to correct something you just said. She didn't say the Democrats. She didn't say Joe Biden. Notice that. She said the federal government.
Okay.
So
okay.
I'm just what I'm saying is that is the human mind. And that is something that people also should pick up on. Now, that was a great clip. That's real. And I'm going to tell you right now, I do the shopping for my family a lot of times on Saturday morning. Prices of food have gone up a lot. That's not a lie what that lady's saying. And I'm going to tell you this right now. If you're in the lower middle class, if you're in the working poor, you might have a situation where your kids, if you're eating, say, chicken, you're eating peanut butter and jelly, and the kids get the chicken.
Right.
There's a lot of people in America that are living under those standards right this second. But I'm going to tell you this. She didn't call out. She should have said because of Joe Biden, which she didn't do.
All right.
And I just want to point that out because I'm going to tell you this right now. If you cannot compare the cost of things, honestly, under the presidency of Donald Trump versus the presidency of Joe Biden, you're not an adult.
Right.
You're not an adult because I could honestly say this. Gas has gone up considerably. Food prices have gone up considerably. And they own that.
Joe.
And if you're not willing to accept that, I'm sorry, you're not an adult.
Right.
And it's only going to stay that way. And I'm telling you that right now. You could rationalize it. You could lie to yourself, but that's not going to pay your bills. That's not going to feed your kids. That's not going to put gas in your car. And I wanted to hear that woman say just what I said.
Right.
because of Joe Biden's policies. She didn't say it.
Right. No, I
And
know.
frankly, the lady, well, she's not going to say that on MSNBC, but that is the truth.
No, I hear you. Hey, Joe, again, there's a couple of new viewers tonight, which is awesome. John Everett's with us. John Everett Button's with us. He's saying some on the Protestant side are suggesting Trump is sent from Jesus. You know what it is, John? Joe and I have discussed it before about the whole assassination attempt. We do on a certain level. We believe God spared Donald Trump. We really do. Okay, God could do anything. We're going to wait to see what that fruit is. We're going to wait to see what it is exactly God spared him for. God did spare Donald Trump. Now, maybe God spared him so that maybe he'll convert. Maybe it's just to save his own soul. Or maybe because God has greater things for Mr. Trump. We'll see. We'll see. I do believe that we should be objective about Donald Trump's life and look at it objectively as Catholics, let's say. Not in a judgmental way, but we should look at it. I will say this, at 78 years old, okay, he loves his kids. He loves Barron. All right. I love that kid, Joe. By the way, do you see how tall he's gotten?
Yeah, he's like 6'6". He's huge.
He's huge. Okay. Melania's praying in front of statues of the Blessed Mother. Okay. So there's a lot of things going on with Trump that we think the jury's out on. Let's give him the benefit of the doubt, John. And just say, let's see what God, because God governs all of human history. Let's see what God has in store for Mr. Trump. So anyway, Joe, so yeah, I mean, like I said, you're right. She should have mentioned the Biden regime, but just the image itself, people, like you said, could connect dots. Well, a bell pepper at $5 is a lot more expensive now than under Trump. Gas at $5 is a lot more expensive than it was under Trump. People could connect the dots without having to hear. I wish, like you, she would have said it. But the image of that woman crying because people can't eat, all right, and we know who the administration is right now, that's not going to, put it like this, that's not a net positive for the left.
Agreed. And I'll tell you this, though. That's where people, I'll be truthful with you, have to put down their political hat. Like, I'll be honest with you. I am mesmerized how people can lie to themselves and rationalize something as important as buying food.
Right.
Buying food, dude. It doesn't get more basic than that. And if you think that somehow the new branding of Kamala Harris is going to correct that, I'll be honest with you. I have a bridge to sell you. like I don't know how it boggles my mind, because you know what it is? It's a religion to people. It's their religion. Their political party is their religion, and they're just willing to look the other way. They're even willing to starve. They're even willing to starve.
Yeah.
And
it's a shame.
Joe, I'll be honest with you. To me, it's a study in human nature. I listen to things, I watch people, and I can't believe it. I literally can't believe it. It's so easy to manipulate them. And they're willing to be manipulated. It's like shooting fish in a barrel.
Can I play devil's advocate for a second? Do you mind, Joe?
Sure.
All right. I'm going to go on ahead and give people a little bit more of the benefit of the doubt. If we actually had a free press, an independent press that was not partisan in this country, that gave all sides of all issues to the American people, I think a good portion of the people you're talking about would say, you want to know what? That's right. Abortion is not more important to me than feeding my kids. Okay. So if Donald Trump is going to do anything about abortion, I got to feed my kids. I was paying $2 a gallon of gas. Eggs were cheaper, milk was cheaper, cheese was cheaper, bread was cheaper, meat was cheaper, everything was cheaper under Donald Trump. And I don't give a crap about abortion. Now, a lot of people, but they're not. And that's where I'm playing devil's advocate. I do believe what you said, and a lot of people are drinking the Kool-Aid and would vote not in their self-interest, or people who would think that abortion's more in their self-interest than having lower prices of food.
No, I'll tell you the truth. Abortion, and you know my position on it. I'm clearly not for abortion. It's a distraction. Most people don't care. And the ones that do voted for it. I wish it was different. That is a religious issue that people's hearts have to change. Like right now, if you ask me, I'm not even talking about that.
No, I was just
but I'm just saying, like I think that's they use issues like abortion to divide people. And that's a strategic tool used by Kamala Harris. They use that, and
Right.
it distracts people from eating. Like, that's where I'm going to be honest with you. If I'm on that debate stage, you bring that up, I don't even address it. I stick right back to the bell pepper. I don't even address it. I let you talk, and then I say the bell pepper costs. It costs
Joe, you gotta watch.
it
Joe, we're
costs-
gonna take you down, Joe. The UK is gonna come and arrest us.
It costs $2, and now it costs $5. I'm not even talking about that. And again, I know my position. I take the Catholic position. I'm not falling for your trap. That's the trap. And they said it, and too many people buy into it. It's about winning. Now, I'm not saying, listen, once you get power, that's when you start using the bully pulpit. That's when you start using the Congress. That's when you start using the Senate to move some of those issues. But I'm not talking about them right now. I'm doing exactly what that guy did at the press conference with Jim Acosta. I'm not talking about it. You want to talk about it? Have at it. I'm ignoring you, and I'm sticking to message because I'm going to win. And that's exactly what we should do. Don't stick to those issues that distract and divide. Stick to issues that unite, and there are a lot of them.
Well, you mentioned free speech, of course. Okay, that's a uniting issue for anybody who's real. In our lifetimes, the people, Joe, in America who have hated communist regimes more than anybody are obviously the immigrants that fled those countries and came to America. Now I'm not talking about Cubans. And you and I, we have a dear friend of ours who's Cuban. We know many Cubans in our lives. They're very conservative people. Obviously, one of the main tenets of conservatism, whatever that means nowadays, was anti-communism. Cubans naturally flocked at it, but it wasn't just Cubans. I worked with a Serbian guy, Albanian guy. Both his grandfathers were killed by the communists, by Enver Hoxha. And so I've spoken to a lot of people. You know who hates the Communist Chinese Party more than anybody else? American Chinese immigrants.
Chinese Americans support Trump. All right. So the reason is the Democrat administration, Biden administration, lead this country towards socialism and eventually towards communist dictatorship. We came from China. We know this is the way. This is not like people here don't understand what is a communist is. We know communist is what communist is. That's why we support Trump.
This is really interesting because I'm also Chinese American myself. So
you haven't lived in China, I guess.
I did. I grew up in China.
Oh,
I grew up in China till I was 17. I'm from Shanghai. But
Shanghai.
Yeah, I don't want to talk about my opinions because I'm a journalist. So I just want to hear more about your opinions. As immigrants, a lot of people might say that Trump is anti-immigrant or
Trump is not anti-immigrant. It's just against illegal immigrant. Right. It must be lawfully, orderly.
I mean, I don't even know what to say because remember, the left who tells us hand-wrings about color of your skin, what you have between your legs, what your sexual proclivities are, all the things they hand-wring about. They hate that guy, Joe. They hate him. They hate that guy. And what they do is people like Jim Acosta, who we showed earlier, and other people in the press, they hate him and they try to make it seem like he doesn't know what he's talking about. Joe, I saw them do it to Cubans my whole life. Well, those are the stupid Cubans. The smart ones are the ones who stayed in Cuba. Really? You want to talk about people who can't eat? Fidel Castro was a communist dictator who died as a billionaire, Joe. I don't know how that works with Karl Marx. Okay. How does the communist dictator become a billionaire when it's each according to his ability or from each and to each according to his need? They hate that guy. They know it. They know we know it. That's why they try to shut social media down because we're going to show that guy all the time and people like him.
Well, I'll tell you what they're also not saying in that interview is she is also for big business. She is there because she is a puppet to the money people that put her there. No different than George Bush, no different than Bill Clinton. And that is exactly why she has been handpicked. And that's exactly why they hate RFK and they hate Donald Trump, because
So you're talking about Kamala.
correct.
Oh,
And
okay,
what
I'm
I'm
sorry.
saying is the strict definition of communism. Like, that man is correct. We are absolutely inching closer and closer to a more socialistic country. They just don't use the term. What was that school of thought in Germany after World War II? It was they
It was
basically
denazification.
no, but it was like a think tank of people. I can't recall the name of it. It was like they were intellectuals from Germany that basically.
Oh, the Frankfurt School.
That's right. That basically were pushing socialism without using the word. That's basically what the Harris regime is all about. I mean, it's solidifying the control of those on top, and it's taking away the power of the people more so than we've already been taken power from.
Right.
Like that is what, and also they're secular humanists.
Oh yeah.
They take God out of the equation. They put man in the center, and they're trying to create a utopia. They're trying to legislate morality, all of those things. When you give people freedom to the point, when I say freedom, you could do anything you want, no rules. Those on top have to put rules around those people to control it. More rules. When you follow the rules, the natural law, you don't need as many rules because you're self-policing yourself. When you follow God and you follow the natural law, you don't need all the other rules because you self-police yourself. But when you let people run amok, you have to have more rules. And that's exactly what the Biden regime is all about. And frankly, that means taking away people's freedom. And we've already seen that in the public square. We've seen that in the religious situation with Catholics at abortion clinics who are trying to simply peacefully protest. We're seeing all types of violations of our freedoms because they have to control you.
Right. And the thing is, they try to, and that's again going back to our theme of they think we're all stupid, and that's why I would say to Kamala and all the rest of them, you might think you were stupid, okay, but at the end of the day, the only reason you get away with doing that is because you control the press. Because, and again, I'm going to go back to Elon Musk. This is a very important conversation we're having here at the front line with Joe and Joe. Please share. We're going to go back to it. This is what they hate. 1 billion people listen to Donald Trump and Elon Musk, and they know that Joe Rogan's out there. Joe Rogan's not a conservative. I guess he's more libertarian, if you want to call him that, but he's for free speech. Of course, Tucker Carlson is a real conservative. He's for free speech. The people he has on his show are for free speech. Elon Musk is for free speech. This is why, like you said, we did an interview recently with a gentleman, and we talked about the 10 Commandments. And one of the things that Joe and I pointed out on the show during the interview was that God has 10 rules, gave them to Moses. Jesus condensed it into 2. Love God, love your neighbor as yourself. We have the natural law tradition in the Catholic Church that started with Aristotle and then moved through Aquinas, okay? So we get it. Joe, those are real rules, okay? But you know what the beauty of them are? There's only a few. It's not rocket science. When you want to look at who really wants to impose rules on societies, and thousands of them, go to where we started the conversation today. The UK wants to send people here to arrest Americans for what they deem to be hate speech. The UK is arresting people because they're calling some
perfect example.
Right. So the thing is this: who makes the rules? Kamala, Barry Obama. You guys make the rules. God has 10 rules. You have 10,000. So who's for freedom? You or God?
But that's exactly because when you give people free reign, there has to be more rules on top. When you basically give people the basics, the rules of the natural law, there's less rules on top. And you choose.
Right.
You choose. I mean, ultimately, to be honest with you, that's why the freest you'll ever be is when you basically follow the natural law. You can't be more free.
Well, see, that's the paradox. Anthony's with us. Hey, Anthony, what's happening, brother? And Colin's with us. Haven't seen Colin in a while. What's going on, Colin? Joe, it's exactly right. In other words, we're going to move on because we want to get into just real quick a couple of clips on Afghanistan. But the bottom line is, it's the paradox of, let's say, being a Catholic. Okay, when you're you're truly free when you're a slave of Christ, and you're truly enslaved when you don't allow yourself to be a slave of Christ. I mean, I know I'm kind of butchering that, but that's the way it is. You're truly free when you follow the rules, and God's rules are not that difficult to follow. We won't get into the rest of it tonight. They're not that. Hey, listen, don't kill anybody. Don't lie. Well, start with the first one. How about you love God who created you and gave you your life? Okay. And then after that, how about you don't make false gods? And then after that, really, can you get through your life without killing anybody? Can you get through your life without lying? Could you get through your life without stealing? I think you can. Doesn't seem too much of a burden to me. Anyway, Joe, I got to play this. All right. And then we're going to play something immediately afterwards.
درنو لیدونکو او د ملي رادیو اوریدونکو دا د امریکایي اشغال د هیواد د ازادۍ او فتحې په دې مراسمو کې د اسلامي امارت هوایي ځواکونه هم پوځي نمایشات ترسره کوي او د زمینی ځواکونو ملاتړ کوي. هوایي ځواکونه په اوسني عصر کې د یو هیواد د دفاع له اساسي عناصرو ګڼل کېږي. اسلامي امارت د هوایي ځواک تقویې ترمیم او پراختیا ته کلک تعهد لري او په تېرو 3 کلونو کې یې ګڼ شمېر څرخکې او الوتکې ترمیم او د پرواز وړ ګرځولې دي.
Joe, there's only so much of that I could play. You know what all that was for everybody out there who obviously couldn't understand what that guy was saying? That's all American military equipment from that highly successful withdrawal that we have from Afghanistan. At least that's what General Milley, the Joint Chiefs of Staff, and Biden want to tell us. Joe, I'm going to hand it over to you. Quick shout out. Valerie's with us. Another Aussie's in the house. She says she's not from here. Obviously, she's from Australia, but please vote for Donald Trump. Hi, Valerie. How you doing? Yeah, Joe, that's all military equipment that we left there.
That was a parade commemorating the 3 years of liberation from American occupation in Afghanistan, and we paid for all of that. How are you okay with that?
Right.
How are you okay with that? Again, could we just be adults for a moment? How are you okay with that? I'm not. Right. I'm also not okay with all the money we're sending over to the Ukraine.
Oh, it's horrible. Okay, horrible.
500,000 people are dead. I am sick and tired of proxy wars and endless wars. And by the way, that was always the knock on the quote unquote conservative guy, the Republican. I don't want any more wars. And this is the hypocrisy, how they have flipped. And by the way, it's not just the quote unquote Democrats. The Republicans are just as bad.
Look, and that's why
I will never, ever support an establishment candidate again that is for endless wars, that is for globalism, that is for taking America off of oil standard. Ever.
Right.
Ever. Because it doesn't benefit people. And you can't say, you hear all the lines. Take off your political hat and open your eyes. You paid for that. By the way, Afghanistan is an enemy of the United States of America. And if they could slit your throat, they would.
In a second. And here was Donald Trump's. Now, this is from a while ago, but I'm sorry. This is one of those times where I love Trump. He's talking about General Milley and leaving the equipment there that you saw in that clip where they're commemorating their 3 years being liberated from America with our equipment. Well, here's Trump.
Airplane. You got a $29 million gorgeous helicopter. We had every type of helicopter. Many of them brand new, literally out of the box. $70 million planes. You mean you think it's cheaper to leave it there so they can have it than it is to fill it up with a half a tank of gas and fly it into Pakistan or fly it back to our country? You think, yes, sir, we think it's cheaper, sir. That's when I realized he was a fucking idiot.
I'm sorry.
Now, obviously, Joe, we're not promoting foul language, okay? But let's be clear. One aspect of Trump that they hate is he goes like this. He takes the gloves off, all right? He fights them in the gutter. I've said for a long time, I'm going to throw it over to you, Joe. We're coming up on the hour. But I've said for a long time, and this was back, before we started in the middle of the Trump presidency. But we always said that real conservatives need to understand you're going to have to get yourself dirty because they're fighting in the gutter and they're winning. So you got to get in the gutter if you want to fight them. And he does a good job of getting down the crap out of them.
Well, he's been very successful, clearly. I again, this is that's an issue people should talk about. Listen, I'm not saying sidestep the 3-year anniversary of Afghanistan, because frankly, the Biden regime put America in danger by leaving those weapons in the hands of our enemies. They simply did.
We've had the best technology in the world that's in that equipment.
And again, people have to just be adults about this. How are you okay with that? How are you okay with that? I'm not. I'm sorry. And again, Trump has to stick to the messaging, stick to issues like that. Don't get caught up in the nonsense. And frankly, people have to see through the nonsense, see through the traps, the 3-card Monty that's being put in front of you. They're sucking you in. They're taking the air out of the room. Disregard the nonsense. Stick to the issues. Stay disciplined. Focus. Know who the enemy is. And the enemy is the establishment. They hate you. They hate you.
Well, we're running out of time, but I do want to get in this one more clip that's along the lines of what you're saying. So we didn't play that clip for Afghanistan. We played that because we wanted to talk about one of the things that cheeses off the left is Trump's blunt speaking, and of course the fact to throw out there that Joe Biden left $85 billion worth of equipment and technology in Afghanistan that probably ended up in the hands of the Chinese. But here's an unlikely source for the front line with Joe and Joe talking about going against the establishment, or put another way, what the establishment did to him.
I ran against Hillary Clinton and I ran at 20.
Yeah, I remember. And I felt like you didn't get treated fairly, to be honest with you.
Well, I didn't. And that's what happens when you take on the establishment. So what happened is we won the first 3 primaries, and then the establishment got very, very nervous, and there were a whole lot of candidates in the Democratic primary. And they said, hey, be a good idea if you all dropped out, let Joe Biden be the one candidate. People rallied around him.
And do they call? Is there a call that you get, and it's like you're not going to move forward? Is it just like news articles? Like how does the establishment?
Well, what happens is I won the popular vote in Iowa. I won the New Hampshire primary. I won the Nevada primary, and those were the first 3. And then front pages of the New York Times, Democratic establishment very nervous. Bernie Sanders could win the whole. We were doing very well in the polls, and I think behind the scenes, people thought, there were like 15 different candidates, and they were splitting up the vote. And that's how I was not necessarily getting over 50%. I was getting more than other people. So I was on the way to victory. And they said, look, Bernie shouldn't be the candidate for a variety of reasons. We don't want him the candidate, drop out. And then on one day, a lot of people, 1 or 2 days, a lot of people dropped out. It was Joe Biden and me, and Joe had a lot of support, and all these people came behind him.
And do you think that our election process is still democratic? Do you think it's still?
Yes and no. I mean, you want to run for office. Can you? Yeah, you can. You got a certain number of signatures. But if you're going to win, and I have 10 times more money than you do, I will beat you 95% of the time.
All right, so there you go. I mean, look. Now, the problem with Bernie Sanders is a freaking hypocrite, all right? So because there was so many people that voted for him, he could have fought more. He could have used the press. Again, he will find a lot of allies in the press, as will the establishment Democrats. Okay, he could have done a lot more to stay in that race. Put it like that. He went along with his party. Okay. Bottom line is, and he could have stayed. He could have fought a little bit harder if he truly is a true believing socialist that he calls himself. But the fact is, he did mention the one thing that you and I have said on the show a million times: for Bernie Sanders to have a shot. Okay, for any real grassroots, true conservative to have a real shot, okay, because Trump is conservative, but he's not a true conservative in certain ways, then we need to have public funding of elections. Bernie Sanders was true when he said, if I have 10 times more money than you, I'm going to beat you 95% of the time.
But Joe, that's the point of the clip. I'm not an advocate of Bernie Sanders.
Oh,
either,
I know that.
But he's being very honest. And that's a problem. What that says is the country doesn't belong to the people. That's all that says. And again, let's be adults. That should bother you. It's not about Donald Trump. It's about the machine that is not supporting and serving you. That's what that says to me. I'm not voting for Bernie, but he's telling the truth. I'm an adult, and I could at least take him at his word there and say, you're right. You're right. The country is about money. Our politicians are at the beck and call of those who give them money. And that should trouble you if you are not part of that group. And very few people are. And that says everything you need to know. Like the fact right now we don't have a president. Right now, as we speak, non-elected bureaucrats are making decisions. We're in a proxy war with Russia, and we're about to enter another one with Iran. And we don't have a president. That should concern you. And that is why I will never vote for an establishment candidate, Republican or Democrat. And that's why it's not about Donald Trump. It's about you. Connect the dots. That's all I'm going to say.
Joe Rossinello, that's the perfect place to end it. As always, making a whole lot of sense. Again, if you know us here at the front line with Joe and Joe, we just try to make sense. We try to dissect things. See, we're not like Adam Schiff and the rest of them. Our degrees are on the wall. They're PhDs in common sense. That's why you watch Frontline with Joe and Joe. Remember, we go live Thursday nights, 9 o'clock Eastern time. We go across Rumble, X, Facebook, YouTube. Please share this video if you don't mind. If you haven't shared it already, share it. Smash the like button. Do what you do for other social media people. Help Joe and Joe out too. Now, don't go anywhere. We're going to leave you with 2 minutes of entertainment. We'll see you next week. And remember, until the next time, that our conversation is your conversation. And that conversation is going on everywhere. Talk to you soon.